So just to introduce ourselves, I'm Lewis John. I'm a solutions consultant with City Guilds Kineo. We've got a stand here today. We're on B12, so if you like what you see, come on over afterwards and come and have a chat with us. And I've also got Ryan O'Malley with me.
Hi there. I'm Ryan O'Malley. I'm a solutions architect in the platforms team at City Guilds Kineo. So it's my job to basically design and configure software platforms to deliver great learning experiences.
Thanks, Ryan. That's a good point. I didn't kind of say what I do. So my role is kind of scoping out potential projects, putting a proposal together, putting a presentation together, and then effectively, if we move ahead with the project, I hand it over to the production team, to Ryan and his colleagues to implement. And so the project we're looking at today, that was the kind of process where, talking to the clients about their requirements and then taking on the project and then moving forward with the platforms team. So the agenda for today is a bit of an introduction to what we're talking about, which is Samsung Backstage, then going through the background to the project, which is the kind of almost like the precursor to the implementation. It's all the work that was done in terms of looking at what the user requirements were and the kind of user-centered design approach we took to the project. Then we're going to move forward and we're going to actually kind of talk about what we implemented, the platform itself, and Ryan's going to cover that bit off. And then we're going to talk about the results as well, as in what evidenceable results we've seen from having launched the platform and the use of it. So hopefully that format will work okay, and I hope it's an interesting session for you today. So just quickly, City Guilds Kineo, we're one of the largest e-learning providers in the UK. We're part of the City Guilds group, and we are co-founders of Totra LMS, which is the learning platform we've used to build the platform for Samsung. We provide a whole bunch of services, and as I say, come along and see us on stand B12 afterwards if you'd like to know any more. But we produce content, we design and build learning platforms, and we have a whole other range of services as well. So, Samsung Backstage. What is Samsung Backstage? Well, it's a training platform, basically, for Samsung, and it's targeted at people that sell Samsung products. So they're not Samsung employees. They are people that maybe work in department stores or phone shops. And for Samsung, the platform, the Samsung Backstage platform that we're looking at today is all around trade engagement. So kind of building a relationship with those people that sell your product, as well as providing product information. So if somebody knows a lot about a product, then they're more likely to be able to sell it effectively, basically. But it's a whole lot more than that, and we're gonna be seeing a lot more about that today. So first of all, the background. So in terms of the way that this is split, the session, I'm going to kind of cover off some of the client side as well. So some of what I'm talking about is what the client came to us with. And then, as I say, Ryan's going to talk about more about the implementation. So the vision was to provide a best-in-class, highly engaging platform for interactive media. So it's mainly about mobile phones, smartphones, wearables, but also some other electronic devices as well. So the brief was to create a unified learning experience across devices. Now, there was an old version of the platform, and it had a desktop version and it had a mobile version, but they were very, very different, and they were pretty clunky. So the client very much wanted a seamless experience. So whether you access it on the desktop or the smartphone, it's the same platform, basically. So that was a big part of the brief. Also, it was not just about kind of providing learning, it's about that relationship, creating a relationship between the brands and the user, something they'd want to come back to time and time again, and actually makes them feel good about the brands. It's a very competitive marketplace, and other providers have similar kinds of things. They're not as good, in my opinion. They're not at the same level, but Apple have their own kind of learning platform and so on, and HTC and such like. So what we wanted to do was also have a platform that rewarded users. So as the users used the system and engaged with it, we wanted to kind of be able to recognize that and reward it as well. Plus get much better data about how people use it in terms of analytics and reporting, as well as creating a great brand experience. So this is kind of playing back some of what I just talked about. So it's an online training platform, but it's all about building relationships and creating incentives for users to drive their use of it and to drive their engagement with their brand and their advocacy for the brands. So when we were looking at this project kind of prior to building it, just looking at the kind of requirements and the vision, we were looking at what kind of a platform we wanted to build, and we looked at what else was out there. So in terms of learning, you know, there's some great sites out there right now, like Dumb Ways to Die and Duolingo, that use a very visual kind of technique for providing the learning to the learner. You know, it's not kind of just like words on a screen that might kind of not be very exciting for them. So we had the concept of a visual programming and short bite-sized learning, and incentivizing it as well in the way that Duolingo does. I mean, I'm a big fan of Duolingo. It kind of drives you back for repeat usage. And on the engagement side, sites like Foursquare and Code Academy and Strava that kind of drive competition and drive engagement. Again, we wanted to tap into that side. So this the feeling of exclusivity, but also having a kind of gamey feel as well, and competition. And then the sweet spot in the middle, it really is covering off all of those. So it's a social environment. It's tailored and it's personalized to me, but it's also kind of cross-platform, so it works great on a mobile device as well. So our users, we had 50,000 users, and these are young guys. These are 20 to 34-year-olds, tech savvy, so the sort of people you might meet if you go and buy a phone in Carphone Warehouse. They're young, they're techie, they're keen to make a sale, and they get a buzz out of technology and out of doing the job that they do, and they live and breathe phones. So in terms of the background, we did a bunch of research. We went out and did face-to-face interviews with the end users. We did hundreds and hundreds of online surveys, as well as offline surveys and the like, to understand what our users wanted. And we got some feedback like competitions, you know, the users want that, love that kind of competition side of things, so they wanted to see that on the side. They wanted it to be mobile, and they like the idea of having competitions and the like. So we took a user-centered design approach to the project. We looked at how the users, what devices they use to access the internet, access online content. For this audience, almost all of them are accessing it on mobiles and smartphones. So we've got 54% on mobile, on smartphone, 11% on tablet, and 35% on desktop. So for this project, desktop was actually the minority use case, you know, which is kind of quite different to a lot of projects. So we went through a process of doing mood boards, doing information architecture, talking through the clients, or the users, sorry, you know, what they wanted to use on the site and how they'd access it, what the user journeys were, what the destination tasks were, and such like, and mapped that out and mocked it up and did wireframing and the like. James Corden is on there because we also wanted to agree on a tone of voice for the site, and James Corden kind of fitted that bill. That he's, you know, he's somebody, he's likable, he's kind of relaxed, he's kind of gone bright. So that was the kind of philosophy we wanted for the site, to have that kind of a tone of voice for Samsung Backstage. So this is the point where I hand over to my esteemed colleague Ryan to talk a little bit more about the platform.
Thanks very much, Lewis. Yeah, this is quite an interesting one for me. Obviously, working in the platforms team day to day, I'm working on LMS projects, and they can vary widely depending on who the client is. You get projects that are fairly small scale compliance delivery platforms. That's all people are looking for. The other end of the scale, you get platforms that are extended enterprise, e-commerce solutions, for example. Samsung's really interesting. It covers a whole load of bases. It not only is it about the learning delivery, it's also, as Lewis said, it's about the engagement piece that sits behind it. And actually, it uses the platform in some quite interesting ways that we don't tend to use for other clients, but it's really kind of opened up a lot of scope for the type of things you can do with an LMS. The platform, as Lewis mentioned already, is Totra LMS. It was an obvious choice, really. I guess one of the first things was it needed to look great, needed to be responsive. Totra supports responsive design. It comes with an HTML5 framework. We've actually got our own responsive theme framework that we can use as well. And being open source, there's a lot of flexibility around how you can skin it up and how you can make it look. It also needed to be able to present e-learning seamlessly. We didn't want learners to be in a position where they were obviously doing learning or sitting through your kind of traditional e-learning. And Totra is obviously, being an LMS at its core, is designed to do that. In the background, Samsung needed to be able to track all of the learning that people were doing on the site, both at the user level, also at the brand level, so they could understand how their resellers were performing, how engaged the learners were on the site. And Totra, it comes with a reporting engine which kind of out off the shelf ticked most of the boxes for that. In terms of engagement, the site needed to be really interesting. It wasn't about being an LMS at all. What we need to do is offer learners lots of opportunities to interact and engage with both the site and the brand. And Totra comes with a bunch of tools out of the box for that. Things like quizzes, for example. We used courses as competitions. You'll see more as we go through. Also, it supports the open badges standard. So there's liberal use of open badges throughout the site to kind of show acknowledgement and reward users as they go through. And finally, we wanted to give people more of a personalised experience, and every user that goes onto Backstage has their own dedicated homepage that gives them a summary of the learning they've done, gives them recommended learning, lets them see their achievements and their badges and so on. So I'm going to show you a few screenshots of the build now. What you can see here is a screenshot of the homepage across multiple devices. So as Lewis mentioned already, one of the absolute key things on the site that it was responsive, the vast majority of the user base using it on mobile devices. So as you can see here, it works very nicely. You get a kind of a unified experience whether you're using it on a desktop or on a mobile. The visual aesthetic uses bold, eye-catching imagery. A copy is actually kept to an absolute minimum, so learners going on there are kind of drawn by the images, and it's all very... we keep it simple, really. Also, the actual layout and the design is kind of panel-based, and it's got a couple of advantages. One, that I guess you can use it as a marketing platform. It's very easy using Totra's architecture to swap out some of the images to promote various different campaigns. But also, it translates really well when you put it into a responsive design. What you can see here is this is the course catalogue. It's actually the first two levels of what's called the Discover section on the site. Again, it moves away from it doesn't really use terminology like courses or learning. It kind of sticks to kind of product-based presentation. It also moves away from what you see in a lot of learning management systems, which is where courses and course catalogues are presented in a kind of a linear or a list form. It's all very visually based. It uses product images very heavily, so learners can quite obviously see where they are on the site. On the left here, you've got the top level of the category, where it's got courses and they're all grouped by product type, so smartphones, tablets, cameras, etc. Learners can click on those and then drill down, and on the right hand side you'll see this is actually within one of those categories. It shows all the smartphones that are available. Now, one of the advantages of taking this approach is obviously when your end users are working in a retail environment, they might be very familiar with devices that are on sale. They might not know that much about them, not necessarily the model numbers, but straight away they can hone in on a device that they want to find out more about. Another thing to point out on here is the panels across the top, you'll notice, are bigger. That gives you the opportunity to promote the kind of the devices that have or services that are kind of the flavour of the moment. That design flows through to the courses and e-learning as well. What you can see on this slide is on the left-hand side, this is a Totra course page, and on the right is some e-learning. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with Totra, a course page is basically a container of learning objects. It's very configurable. It gives you a whole bunch of tools out of the box for setting up a course in any way you want. A typical course that you've got on Backstage contains some light background introductory information about the devices, a carousel with lots of device images. They might have a short quiz on there to test people's knowledge when they go in, technical specifications about the device, the option to download kind of product PDF resource sheets, and also a link to some e-learning. But the point is, it's very configurable. Not all of the courses look like this, and it's very easy for Samsung to go in and add and remove elements when they're relevant. On the right-hand side is an example of the e-learning, and as you can see, the whole user experience from a design point of view is very consistent. You basically don't realise that you're going from a course page into some e-learning. The e-learning is built in the Adapt, open source Adapt framework. It's HTML5. It's also fully responsive, so works well on any device you use it on. And also, it's adaptive as well, so the interactions that you get with the e-learning are tailored to the device that you're on. So if you're on a small screen, it will cut down the interface and it will trim out stuff that wouldn't work in that scenario. So it's all good and well. It looks great. That's only one part of delivering a great solution in this case. The other part is the user engagement, and Lewis mentioned this already. Particularly important in this case because engaged users are repeat users. They come back to the site. You want them to be doing the learning, increasing their product knowledge, and then ultimately become product advocates and hopefully sell more phones at the end of the day. The site uses several strategies to do that. The first one is buzz. So here you can see 2 pages from different times of the year, and on both of them they're promoting either product launches or kind of popular events that are going on at the time. Samsung run an awful lot of marketing activity, and any time that's going on, there's corresponding content in the learning management system. On the right-hand side, at the top, you'll see there's a banner with a countdown on it. That was a live countdown to a product launch. That in this case, it was the S6 smartphone. So all the time, the marketing activity was going on. Learners could come in, they could see the countdown on the homepage as soon as they logged into the site. And actually, when the launch event happened, you could stream the live launch through the learning management system. On the left-hand side, you'll see this is a kind of a competitions page showcasing the various competitions that go on throughout the year. In this case, you'll notice at the bottom there's a tie-in with the Rugby World Cup, and there's a little leaderboard on there, and that shows the users that had scored the highest in the quiz. I also want to draw your attention to the Big It Up banner at the top. This was another thing that Samsung do. This is around advocacy. So at its core, the Big It Up campaign was a quiz. Learners could go in, they could answer questions based on based on product knowledge, and then they'd be entered into a prize draw to win things like tickets to the Rugby World Cup, or they could win devices like smartphones or tablets. The key, though, was the more people that entered the competition, the better the prizes were. So they were driving advocacy in that way. There was an obvious incentive for learners to go out, to recruit the people they work with, to go on, also complete the quiz on there and basically boost up the prizes that were available. That's just one of a number of advocacy campaigns that Samsung have run. A couple of quick examples. There's also the Backstage battles, and you'll see an example of some of the promotional material that Samsung produced for this shortly. Basically, this ran across all of their social channels, and what they were encouraging learners to do was Samsung would set challenges like show us your best plank or give us your best dance moves, record themselves, upload it via the social channels, so via YouTube or Facebook. Then Samsung would go and pick the best ones, bring them onto Samsung Backstage, and then learners could come in and they could vote for which one they thought was the winner, and then the winner would win a trip to Barcelona. Obviously, again, a big incentive to get your mates all logging on and voting for your video there. Also, there was the Galaxy Cup. This happens every year. It's a 5-a-side tournament. The registration process was built into Backstage. I'll be honest, it's quite unorthodox. I've not done that for any other clients before, but you can only recruit team members from registered users on Backstage. Once you've got your 5-a-side team registered, then you can play in a tournament with the prize for that, I think, was a trip to South Korea.
So for the UK finals were held at Wembley, and then the World finals were held in Korea, in South Korea. So these are all Backstage users. Well, for the UK portion that are getting pushed forward, they're all sort of Samsung resellers or whatever.
The site also makes use of gamification. It makes liberal use of quizzes, really. There are competitions running all the time. I think there's never a moment where Samsung aren't running some sort of competition. Some of those tie into social. So in the middle example here, Samsung were running a campaign where week by week they were hiding words on various different social channels. So they might be in their Twitter campaign, might be on their Facebook feed. But learners had to go out, or users rather, had to go out, find what the words were, then come back to Backstage and complete week on week this phrase. This was also part of the marketing buzz up to the S6 launch, wasn't it? So a good way of really kind of linking their social strategy together with their learning management system. There are also a lot of quizzes around, as I mentioned earlier, product knowledge. So if you want to enter the quiz, you need to know basically what all the questions are based around. What does this product do? How does it compare to this other product? In a lot of cases, the quizzes are actually only unlocked when you've completed learning. So it's a great way of incentivising people to come on and actually sit through the learning so they can enter the competition. Obviously, if you win a competition, the reward speaks for itself. You get a nice device or a holiday out of it. But actually, the site rewards people for just for entering competitions or even just for doing learning. And it uses open badges to do that. Got some examples of the badges that are awarded here. Learners on Backstage are awarded badges for a whole range of things. Anything from when they originally launched the site, users that were there on day one got a badge. If you log in and complete your profile, if you participate in an event, for example the Galaxy Cup, you get a badge. If you complete learning or a certain number of courses, you get badges as well. Now the great thing about the open badge format is the badges are transferable. Learners can take them away with them, they can download them, upload them to their own backpack, and then you've got an evidence-based record of what they've achieved while they've been logged onto the learning management system. Overall, so just in summary, the LMS isn't just it's kind of a hub, I suppose, amongst all of the activity that was going on. It's both a learning platform for the learning in the conventional sense. So Samsung, reseller employees are free to log on, complete learning either kind of while they're at work, at home, on an ad hoc basis, or even in the presence of Samsung trainers. And use it in very conventional style. But it's also a way of kind of cross-fertilising the social activity and driving engagement that way by getting learners to engage with all the various different channels with a Backstage sitting at the core of it. How did it all work out? Well, I'm going to hand it over to Lewis to summarise for you. Well, first, we think we've got a little video.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just going to show you a quick little clip from a video. So whilst we're talking about, users loving this, and we know they do, but I guess you don't right now because you've only got our words to take for it. So we've got a little promo video. It's very short. I'm only going to play a bit of it. And it's just showcasing some of the Backstage battles that Ryan talked about earlier. So there'd be a theme like show us your best dance move, or show us your best plank, or make your grimmest face or whatever. And users would video themselves or photo themselves, upload them to the site. The guys at Samsung might do a bit of shortlisting, and then the shortlist would be put on the site, and users get to vote for who are their favourites. So I'm just going to kind of show you a little video clip of that now. I'm going to try anyway. Cool. Well, I won't let that go on for too long. But, the thing being that users really, really loved it. And, I guess... Stop. See if I can forward it. Yeah, there we go. I was amazed that the users really, really love it, and they get totally involved in it, and loads of people are videoing themselves and uploading it to the site. So it's great to see that kind of level of user engagement. And you could see from the video clips a minute ago that people are loving it. They're really having a good time. So it's so much more than just a learning management system. And although we describe it as that, on the site you don't hear any mention of learning or learning management system. It's all, the course pages we saw don't look like course pages. They just look like cool web pages. The course catalog just looks like a product catalog. So it's all these kind of like philosophies and approaches that really kind of make it work for this audience. So it was a really I'm going to kind of look at the results now. So looking back, it was a really highly collaborative approach. We worked really, really closely with Iris Worldwide, which is a creative marketing agency, the Samsung's agency, basically. So it was an unusually close working relationship between the digital learning agency and the digital marketing agency, as well as with the end client. But I have to say, it worked fantastically well. It launched on time and to budget. It was an incredibly short timeline. We turned the site around in 3 months from from start to finish, and we also built a whole bunch of e-learning for it as well. It was a seamless transition, so when we turned off the old site and we migrated all the site users over to the new site. So it was it was a successful old project. In terms of the stats, we've seen a big increase in terms of the usage on this new site versus the old site. We've got a high number of active users, and we're seeing a lot of course completions. And a lot of this data actually wasn't even available in the old platform. So now we have a platform that we can produce results, we can produce reports and see how it's working, which then makes a business case for further investment. And that's kind of the process we've gone through. We saw the pie chart earlier about the usage, so it's that kind of level of usage. Yeah, and we're getting great use out of the site. Great feedback from the clients, as in from Samsung, about the new platform. They're going and talking to people about it, and they're getting great feedback, and so therefore they gave us great feedback. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm kind of whizzing through a little bit. But also great feedback from the end users, and of course that's the really important point. I mean, we talked about earning badges, and when the site went live, there were like 23 courses and 23 badges available. By the day after we'd launched, we'd got people that had completed all the badges. I mean, they are keen as mustard to get on the site and to kind of get that recognition and that reward through the system. So in terms of business benefits, the client now has an ability to publish content very, very quickly, so they can get it out there quicker, they can see the learning activity, and they can get some really, really detailed sort of reporting out of the system to match against their KPIs. And we're seeing increased brand advocacy as well. So yeah, this is kind of, I guess, saying more or less the same as the last one. We're seeing a lot much greater trade engagement, and with much greater reach as well. In terms of the brand advocacy bit, which we've talked about a couple of times today, we're seeing those users that use Backstage are much more likely to recommend the brand, and they're also much more likely to effectively sell more products, basically, and they rate their relationship with the brand much higher than those people that haven't used Backstage. So it's kind of working on every level. It's giving great product information, but it's creating a relationship between the brand and the user as well. So, that's obviously a critical thing. So last slide now, pretty much. So yeah, it was a unique partnership, as I talked about earlier. Very much a visual programming technique, as we saw earlier, in terms of some of the inspiration behind the site. It's a very visual site, and it's proving great results for Samsung and for us as well. It's a project we're very proud and excited to have been involved in. So that's the end of the presentation. I don't know if there's any questions from the audience in the last couple of minutes. Any lingering questions out there? It's fine if there aren't. I don't mind. All right, well, thank you very, very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it.